So we're in Jordan Peterson's book, and we're at Rule 8. I've been looking forward to this rule the entire time. It is tell the truth, or at least don't lie. And so Michelle knows yesterday I was working on the message like all day, just about all night till about 2 in the morning. Got up this morning at 6, worked on it some more. So I have a lot of notes. I don't think I'm going to get through it all in one day. That's okay. We'll just revisit it next week. So hang on to your notes if you have those. I'd like to start out with some lies that we tell. Anybody ever tell a lie? Anybody ever tell a lie in here? A few of us. Okay. Some of us didn't. That's good. Here's some that I came across. He said, this is a woman saying, I would like to thank the person that told my daughter that when she lies, her eyes turn a different color. Now she squeezes her eyes shut every time she lies, and my job just became a whole lot easier. I like that. My 8-year-old tried to convince me that the sugar all over his mouth. It's amazing. All these are he. I don't know why. My 8-year-old tried to convince me that the sugar all over his mouth was because he tripped and landed on a donut. I just caught my son lying to me. I made him promise never to lie to me ever again. He swore that he wouldn't. I'm pretty sure that was a lie. I emailed the teacher and haven't heard back. Okay? That's the new, my dog ate my homework. I guess some of you don't have kids in high school or college. I emailed my teacher and I haven't heard back from him yet. That's a lie. I thought that was really funny. I guess not. Okay. My kid tried to convince me that he's allergic to something in church and can't go. I'm jealous. I didn't think of it first. Parents lie too. I just wanted 5 minutes to drink my coffee, so I sent my son into the other room to look for the toy that's in my pocket. Follow me for more parenting hacks. Common parent lies. There's no more left. That's hot and spicy. Everyone is sleeping. Go hide and I'll come find you. Having you guys as kids is a Father's Day gift enough. This is my favorite one. I use this, man, I still use it with Brock. I'll time you. Anybody? Yeah. Take the garbage out, I'll time you. See how long it takes. All right, I'm going to run and take the garbage out. Okay, I know you're not going to find these very funny, but I'll say them anyway. Lies people tell their pastor when they miss church or just don't go. My kids take naps during that time. Gas prices are too high. The church is too close to drive and too far to walk. I got burned out at church and I've been taking a break for the last 7 years. The pastor stays in the Bible too much. My wife cooked bacon for breakfast. The entire family smelled like bacon. This is one of my favorite ones. My son came home from college yesterday. That's it. That's just the excuse. I've actually never heard that one. This is my favorite one of all. And, I haven't actually heard this one, but the pastor is too attractive. When I see him preaching, I have impure thoughts and I'm distracted. Yeah. Telling the truth, or at least don't lie. Let me tell you a couple stories before we kind of get into the message. I'll tell you a story this morning about a sage, and then a second story about a philosopher. The sage. Some people prepared some questions for a sage who is famous for his breadth and depth of knowledge. They asked questions in turn, and the sage answered. Who is the wisest person? He is the one who always finds something to learn from others. Who is the strongest person? He is the one who controls his anger. Who is the richest person? He is the one who knows the value of the treasure he has, that is the day and the hour he lives. Who is worthy of respect? The one who respects himself and his friends. With these answers, one of them could not stand it any longer. He said, "But Lord, what you said is so obvious and so clear." The sage replied, "It's precisely because it's so obvious and so clear that people forget them so quickly." And so what we're going to talk about this morning is going to be very obvious and very clear. And that's why we forget them so often. Now, the philosopher. One day, Socrates was approached by an excited man who wanted to share some news with him about one of his friends, one of Socrates' friends. When the man began to speak to Socrates, Socrates interrupted him and said, "Wait a minute. Before you continue, I'd like you to pass a little test, the so-called triple filter test." "Triple filter?" the man asked. "That's right," Socrates continued. "The first filter is the filter of truthfulness. Are you absolutely sure what you're about to tell me is true about this friend of mine?" The man pondered for a moment and replied, "Well, no, I heard it," and Socrates interrupted. "All right, so you don't know if it's true. Let's try the second filter, the filter of goodness. Is what you're about to tell me about my friend something that's good?" The man hesitated and said, "No, on the contrary." Socrates interrupted again. "So you want to tell me something bad about him, but you're not certain if it's true. Okay, so let's try the final filter, the filter of usefulness. Is what you want to tell me about my friend going to be useful for me?" The man replied, "Well, not really." Socrates continued, "Well, if what you want to say is not true, not good, nor useful, then why say it at all?" See, friends, our words really matter. The Bible says that there's life and death in the power of the tongue. Now, I understand that this can be nuanced, lying, telling the truth, complicated. There are obviously some cultural challenges that I'll maybe speak about a little bit. Hence the title of my message. Everybody see the notes? Do these pants make me look fat? That's a trick question, isn't it? That's a trick question. There seems to be some gray area. White lies, we call these kind of things white lies, or socially acceptable lies in certain situations. Like, I get that, so I'm not talking about that area. As a matter of fact, let me talk to you about something in the New Testament that you may not be aware of. In the New Testament, there's an incident where the disciples were talking to Jesus. This is found in John chapter 7. And they're talking to Jesus, and they said there's up in Jerusalem, there's the Feast of Tabernacle. And they said, "Jesus, we got to go to the Feast of Tabernacle." And Jesus, I'll just read it to you. It says, "After this, Jesus went around Galilee. He did not want to go about in Judea because the Jewish leaders were looking for a way to kill him. But when the Jewish festival of tabernacles was near, Jesus' brother said to him, 'Leave Galilee and go to Judea so that your disciples may see the works that you do. No one who wants to be a public figure acts in secret. Since you are doing these things, you should show yourself to the world. For even your own brothers did not believe in him.'" Even his own brothers did not believe in him. So he said, "Therefore Jesus told them, 'My time is not yet here. For you any time will do. The world cannot hate you, but it hates me because I testify that its works are evils.' And he says this to them, 'You go to the festival. I am not going up to the festival because my time is not yet fully come.' After he said this, he stayed in Galilee. However, after his brothers had left the festival, he went also, not publicly, but in secret." So you read that and you say, "Oh, did Jesus lie?" It's complicated, isn't it? Right? And so it's nuanced, and there's cultural things, and in Asian cultures, Southeast Asia, Middle Eastern cultures, and indigenous cultures, there's a strong emphasis placed on social harmony and saving face. So if you see a list of things that you are wrong to do in a culture, lying in American culture would be top on the list. It would be one of the top 2 or 3. But you go to some of these other cultures, it may not make the top 10. Seems weird to us, doesn't it? Lying, what does that mean? And so there's this feeling of social harmony and saving face, right? And it has to do with more community and so forth. And so maybe something like this is happening there in the Bible as well. All that being said, this chapter is very important for all of us, I think. Jordan Peterson, now I recommend the book, but I'm going to kind of go a slight different direction. He emphasized the importance of telling the truth, or at least not lying. So let's explore some points here and maybe give some practical advice as we go through, okay? So have your notes, go and pull those out. The first point is this. The first point is truth as a foundation of trust. Proverbs 12:22 says this. It says, the Lord detests lying lips, but he delights in people who are trustworthy. So do you see the link there? The link in telling the truth and trustworthiness. If you've been lied to by somebody about something, it's hard to, the next time to believe what they say. Isn't that true? Right? It's kind of like, too, the Bible says this. The Bible says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. It seems so simple, right? But if you really think about it, yes does mean yes and no means no. So why would it say that? It's because if you say yes and you don't come through, the next time, what are people thinking? Well, his yes doesn't really mean anything. So if you run into somebody and they use this phrase, I promise, you know what that means? That means their yes doesn't mean yes. That means their no doesn't mean no. They have to go to something, even more emphasis. Are you going to come? Yeah. Are you sure you're going to come? Yeah, I promise. What that means is they've said yes before and they didn't come through. So the Bible says, let your yes be yes. Words are important, the words that we use. So how do we do this? How do we build trust by truth? What are ways we can cultivate that in our life? These are some ideas in your notes. First is cultivate honesty within yourself. Start there, within your own self. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, and he's feeling distant from some of his friends. So he thought, I'm going to go to this one friend of mine that knows me real well and ask him what the issue is. And so he went to him, and he heard some things that were difficult to hear. Sometimes we have to go to other people. But doing self-evaluation is so important. Be self-aware. And try to do this. Try to recognize tendencies or motivations in your life that lead you to lie. Right? That's the first step. So why do we lie sometimes? Well, sometimes we lie for self-preservation. Isn't that right? Right? We want to avoid negative consequences. Every teenager faces that dilemma, right? They know what they've done was wrong. They're going to face negative consequences, so the temptation to lie is so strong. But it doesn't stop it being a teenager, does it? It goes all the way into adulthood. And so try to recognize those tendencies in your life that you have, or motivations in your life to lie. Self-preservation is one. Here's another big one. People-pleasing. People-pleasing. Some people have been raised to be people-pleaser. They sacrifice their own authenticity for others' comfort. And they measure their own value by whether they're liked or not. And so that's another motivation for lying. How about this one? Financial gain. Financial gain. Do you bend? And I talked about prudential last time, about kind of bending and manipulating the truth and leaving things out and so forth. Why? For financial gain. Personal relationships. Lying can occur in a variety of ways when it comes to personal relationships, right? To avoid confrontation. Some people are just non-confrontational. And whatever they can do to not have conflict or confrontation, they will do, even if that's lying, to avoid, or even just to maintain harmony. Now, again, I know it's nuanced, and I know that this isn't like blanket statements, because I realize, there are all different kind of situational things in our life that come up. This morning, if Michelle asks me how she looks in her clothes, my answer is always the same. She looks beautiful. But if I say, Michelle, how do I look today? She goes, were you going to do something with your hair? I go, what's wrong with my hair? Well, you got to do something with it. I go, okay. I thought I was done with my hair. Got out of the shower and I went like this and I put on my clothes. I was done. Anyways, personal relationship. Self-enhancement. Sometimes people lie to enhance their self-image, right? People lie about their golf score to enhance their self-image. I shot a 98 this past couple days. That is no lie, because I would never tell that. Never say that. It was terrible. Self-enhancement, though. That includes exaggerating accomplishments. Isn't that true? proverbial fish. How big was the fish that you caught? Those sort of things. Sometimes we lie. Now, these are just things that I came up with. You can come up with probably all on your own, but that's the point, isn't it? The point is, recognize what are my tendencies. Like, where do I lie? What's the situations that I face? What are my motivations for lying? Some are privacy and protection driven. Some people lie for social acceptance. Some people lie for emotional self-defense. Lying can just be a defense mechanism to cope with emotional disaster. Are you following me? There's a lot of reasons, but until you can identify in your life your tendencies, but you have to evaluate yourself. You have to know, you have to be honest with yourself that you are lying. Like, that was a lie. Like, that what I just said was a lie. And so when you notice that in your life, listen, this isn't fun stuff to do for yourself, is it? Afterwards go, okay, I just lied. Now, if you can, correct it right away. Best thing you can do, right? No, that was a lie, right? Like, if I said I'm going to finish this message today, no, that's a lie. I'm not going to finish it today. But sometimes we do that. So evaluating that is so important, okay? The next thing for telling the truth, for trustworthiness, is to learn to build trusting relationships. You can write that in your notes. Build trusting relationships. How do we do that? Well, we be consistent. Act in a manner, we talked about this last week. Act in a manner that consistently reflects your values and your character. But you have to know what those are first, or you have to make a list of what do I value, what are my values. So in my conversation with my friend, I was talking about that, and even though he valued this one thing we were talking about, I think it was preceded by some other things that would be more valuable to him. So in his behavior, he acted in accordance with the hierarchy of his values. Does that make sense? So in his friendships, he behaved a certain way, and the criticism was this, is that he always seemed rushed when he's with people, or he's on the phone, or he wasn't really fully present. Although my friend will oftentimes go out of his way to be with people and go to things, funerals, things like that other people didn't even go to. And so for him, it was like making that effort. But when he's there, maybe he's not fully present, right? And so I was talking to him, I was saying that sometimes we're criticized, and the criticism is just wrong about us. It's just wrong. Someone just and so you can blow it off. Someone just, because they're mean or hateful or whatever reason, it's just not true. Sometimes it's true. Isn't that right? Sometimes the criticism is true. And so you have to listen to it and go, wait a minute, now that is true about me. And okay, I need to address that. But sometimes it's not true, but how you're behaving leads people to feel that way about you. And that's this situation with my friend. It feels like our friendship's falling away because it feels like you don't really care about me. Well, the truth is he really does, but his behavior is leading that person to believe or assume that he's not. Does that make sense? And so this is part of learning how to evaluate yourself and being consistent. My question to you is this: can you articulate your own core values? Can you articulate them? Can you sit down and say, make a list, not in order yet, make a list of what your core values are in life, and then kind of prioritize them, because you're going to write down what you want your core values to be. And then you're going to look at your behavior and say, is that consistent? Does that make sense? You're going to say, okay, I behave like this. Well, that's really not consistent with what I say my core value is. So it's very important. Next thing would be this: to communicate openly, foster an environment where honesty and integrity are encouraged, right? And so hopefully you have a friend group that you can do that with, where you can communicate openly. Now, there are different levels of friendships, isn't that true, right? There are some people that you can be maybe more honest with than others, and so if you can't be totally honest, then it's best to do what? Right? Like, don't say anything. Like, that's the best thing. But have a friend group that you can communicate openly with. And you can talk about things like that, about values, about shared values and common values and your core values, and ask questions like, is my behavior lining up with those values, looking from the outside. Another thing for building trusting relationships would be this, to honor confidentiality. Sometimes people come to me and they say, I'm going to tell you, you can't tell anybody else. I go, man, probably best not to tell me then, because I probably tell it in church. It's like, don't tell me, But it is important, isn't it? Isn't it important? Like, if you want to have friends who you can go to and share something with and aren't going to share it with anybody, I think my wife's that way. Michelle's that way. You can tell Michelle something, and some people say, well, I tell my husband because we're one. Michelle doesn't tell me. She doesn't tell me. And you know what? And probably best that she doesn't. Probably best that she doesn't. But there's some people that are like that. I think that's a very admirable quality. Somebody that you can go to that that it stops with them. The trouble is this. The trouble is if you're the kind of person that feels like, well, you can share it with me, I won't tell anybody. And then that person says, well, I have one person I can trust. And they tell the one person they can trust. And that person has what? One person they can trust. One person. See, that's just the snowball effect. So honor confidentiality. 3 would be this. I know this is difficult, but learn how to do this. Learn how to repair and restore broken trust. That's hard, isn't it? Especially when you're the one that broke the trust. But man, what a great character trait to develop in your life. Learn how to restore, repair broken trust. Well, how do we do that? First thing is this. First thing is, again, this is the obvious things, right? You got to take responsibility. You have to take responsibility. You have to acknowledge and then apologize for any lies or deceptions. And that's just hard. That's just hard to face that in your own life, but take responsibility. The second thing would be this. Obviously, it follows right along. Then seek forgiveness. Seek forgiveness. Humbly approach those that you've harmed and ask them, can you forgive me? What I said wasn't true. What I said was a lie. That might bring up some difficult conversation. That's true. Why did you lie? That's a great question. That's a great question to ponder for yourself, isn't it? Why did I lie? Go back to those reasons why I said reasons why we lie. Go back to it and say, what? I just, maybe I'm just immature in that area. Maybe that's self-defense, whatever it was. But the next thing would be to be vulnerable. To be vulnerable about yourself. You go, yeah, it's something about me that I don't like. And listen, I'm working on it. I don't want to be like that. And then, lastly, would be this. Then demonstrate change. See, because relationships and trust can be restored. They can be. Now, it doesn't happen overnight, but it can be restored. Show through your consistent actions that you're committed to truthfulness. Next point would be this. Truth as a catalyst for growth. Truth as a catalyst for growth in your life. Let's look at Ephesians 4:15. It says this, instead, speak the truth in love. Now that is loaded, isn't it? Because, just because you say you're saying it in love doesn't mean you're actually saying it in love, the truth. This is another thing where you really have to do some soul searching. Instead, speak the truth in love. We will never grow to become, in every respect, a mature body of Him who is the head, that is Christ. We will grow to become that. So how do we do this? How do we use truth as a catalyst for growth in our life? Well, I've said this a number of different ways already, but let me just elaborate on a little bit more here, and that's this. Learn how to engage in self-reflection. Do you spend time just sitting and reflecting on your own life, on your own behaviors, on your own relationships, your marital relationship, your relationship with your children, with your friends, with your community? Do you ever spend time on just self-reflection? We need to regularly examine our motives, engage in this introspection. So think about when you're in a situation and you have either behaved poorly, you have lied for whatever reason, you have misrepresented, you have omitted for whatever reason certain information. Sit and evaluate your motives. Why did I do that? Why did I do that? The next thing would be this, in embracing self-reflection, would be accept constructive criticism. Be open for feedback that's going to help you grow. So when I was talking to my friend, my friend said these things about me. And he said, but I don't get it because like I view those things that he said about me as good. Right? And I said, well, from his perspective, now we all have a place that we're coming from. And from his perspective, he's seeing that in a different way than you're seeing it. And so this ability to be open, right? Rather than, I tend to be, if somebody criticizes me, my defense mechanism goes right up. It's a wall. And so now, as soon as that happens, I'm not even able to hear anything anymore. Because what I'm trying to do is defend myself. And so having the quality where you stop trying to defend yourself and just listen. Because here's the truth. If it's true about you, don't you want to know? Don't you want to know if there's a quality about you that people are seeing in you that's kind of ugly? Don't you want to know that? Or shouldn't you want to know that? Certainly you want to know that about yourself. Now, okay, so that's a positive thing for you to hear that. Listen, if it's not true, does it hurt you? No, if it's not true. But again, the third thing, is it not true? But am I behaving in a certain way? Let me tell you, so I think I probably shared this before, but in Wycliffe I did this 360, where you have 3 people below you, 3 people at your level, and 3 people above you that do a whole critique on you. And then at the end when they're done, they each name 3 more people that I picked the 3 people below me. I handpicked them. This person likes me, this person likes me, this person likes me, right? They picked 3 each, and there's 9 more there, 9 this. And so it really comes across as this, very in-depth picture of who you are. And so the Africa field director at the time was doing my leadership training, and he said, read me off some things. And one critique was, Jeff does not like women or Catholics. And I said, well, actually, I love women, so I'm not sure what the problem is there. But I don't like Catholics. I'm thinking. He said, "Is that true?" I go, "I don't think it's true. Like, why would that be?" And he said, "Well, is there something that you're doing that might lead her?" Now, this woman was a German woman, and she was a Lutheran who wanted to convert to Catholicism. But she couldn't because she was part of Wycliffe, and the only, for whatever reason, I don't know why, for whatever reason, the only group that, because they did their own Bible translation, that we didn't work with were the Catholics. I have no idea exactly why, other than they did their own Bible translation as well. So that's the only group. So she couldn't become a Catholic because of that reason, because you couldn't be a Catholic and be part of Wycliffe, for whatever reason. So she said that about me. And so I thought to myself, and I slept on it that night. And when I woke up the next morning, I realized that as I told my story, which we did oftentimes in Wycliffe, I would tell my story about how I grew up, and I was in a Catholic church, and then and went there every Sunday with my dad and so forth. And then when I got in college, I met some people. They told me about Jesus, and then the way I told the story was, and then I found Jesus. And then I became a follower of Jesus, and I became a Christian, right? You hear my story? My story is, that didn't happen in the Catholic Church. It happened over here. She heard, this is bad. Like, don't do this. And that's not what I meant by it. I just meant in my own journey. You follow me? So what I was doing was leading her to believe something that really wasn't true about me. I have many, many Catholic friends that I think very highly of, always have. So, but how I told my story led her to believe that. And so, I don't know where I was, or speak, man, I got way off the track there, didn't I? So, we learn from our mistakes. We embrace opportunity to grow when we're confronted by our errors, right? That's the truth about it. The next thing would be this. The next thing would be to encourage growth in others. Speak truthfully and kindly. Offer honest feedback and with compassion and empathy. Encourage growth in others by providing support. Offer assistance and resources to help others in their personal growth. And then I think this is so important, this third idea here under encourage growth in others, is I think we should do this all the time in our relationships with everybody, is celebrate progress. I don't think we do that enough. To celebrate, even our own life, celebrate the little wins that we have, right? When you see progress in somebody, when you see growth in somebody. There are a few people that I spend time with, and when I see growth in them, I try to tell them, I go, you changed in that area. I know how you used to behave, and I see how you're behaving now. I see growth. Acknowledge and affirm positive changes that you observe in others. Third thing would be this, to pursue knowledge and wisdom. And that just means this, to actively seek truth. And that means to engage in critical thinking. See, to engage in critical thinking, you have to be open, number one. And you have to be able to challenge your own thoughts and ideas, even your own presuppositions. And that's a difficult thing to do as well. And also to do this, I've shared many times that after we came back from Wycliffe and everything happened to us with losing the baby, is I began to challenge my beliefs. You ever do that? Challenge your own beliefs? What a great exercise to do. And you did not fear challenging your beliefs. You did not fear that. Right? Some people, I don't want to do that. That's not a good thing to do. No, that's a great thing to do. Challenge your beliefs. Be willing to evaluate and reevaluate your own assumptions all the time. All the time. Well, what do I believe about this? Why I believe this? Well, why do I believe that? So often, when I talk to somebody, and we'll be talking a discussion about, maybe it's theology, maybe it's something completely different or whatever, and they talk about something that they believe, and I may, and some people really dislike this about me, and I get it, I don't blame them, but I may actually agree with them on what they're saying. But what I want to know is, have they thought through that idea or that thought? Mac calls that a contrarian. I guess I'm a contrarian, I'm Mac, right? Someone says, I believe this, and I'll go, well, why? And I'll challenge them on it to see what's their answers. Well, I believe that. Why do you believe that? Well, that's what I was taught. Well, that's not very good. What if the person that taught you was wrong? I like this one the best. That's what I've always believed. Just because you believe something for 30, 40 years does not make it right. And so it would behoove all of us to spend time and to challenge your own beliefs. This is what I believe. And be willing to examine that and continually reevaluate your own assumptions. And then share knowledge. And that contributes to the growth and development of yourself and of others by sharing what you've learned. This next thing is truth as a path to freedom. John 8:32 says this, then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, this is a lot of study, a lot of information. I'm not going to try to get through it all. Maybe we'll pick it up next week. Maybe we won't. But let's talk about this for a minute. Then you will know the truth, and truth will set you free. Breaking free from self-deception. Be the first thing. Truth is a path to freedom. Challenge your own biases. Do you know you have biases? Huh, Jamie? Talk about this, right? Inherent bias. Inherent bias. In Bible study on Wednesday night, we talk about this. Inherent bias, also known as implicit bias, refers to your unconscious, listen to me, your unconscious attitudes, beliefs, stereotypes, prejudices that influence our understanding, actions, and decisions without our conscious awareness. These biases are deeply ingrained within individuals due to societal, cultural, and personal experiences. Inherent bias. Well, what a difficult thing to do when it is in a subconscious level. Like I think this takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of energy, not just within your own self, but with your own peer group. And sometimes getting outside of your own peer group so other people can peer into your world and see and point out your biases. None of us can see that. It's called our blind spot. It's our blind spot. And then the next thing we do is after we challenge our own biases, we have to confront denial. Denial. I could tell so many stories about this. When you say to somebody about something, well, that's not me. No, it is. No, it's not. That's not me at all. No, I mean, bring 5 other people. No, that's it. No, that's you. That's you. No, it's not. That's not me. Like, I know me. That's not me. So hard to do because it's uncomfortable, and sometimes it's easier just to hide behind those kind of things. And then, obviously, again, they're all obvious, but is embrace personal growth. Embrace personal growth. Be open to change your perspective when confronted with the truth. How many of you are ready for that? Honestly, 100% ready for that. None of us, are we? We're not. We're just not right away. It takes time. I remember a long time ago, Pete, 14 years ago, when I came back from Africa, I would work with Pete, and I was dealing with a lot of stuff in my own life, and I would kind of run things by Pete, talk to Pete, and his favorite saying was, and rightly so, listen, we had a great discussion, I don't mean this in a negative way at all. He would always say, yeah, Jeff, yeah, but, you know what I mean? And give his, the thing is, that's all of us. Don't laugh at Pete, that's all of us, right? Because that's hard. You're listening to something going, yeah, but and the yeah, but is, I've been this way for so long. Yeah, but you got to understand, right? Isn't that true? And it takes time. And then Pete would go home and talk to Connie and say some things to Connie, and Connie would say, you've been talking to Jeff Winters again, haven't you? Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult. And so we need to learn how to confront our own denial. Man, so how do you do that? Well, you have to first know when you're in denial. But the problem with that is you do what? You deny the denial. And I don't mean you, I mean me too. This is the human condition. This is what we do. But listen, if we want to be more like Christ, if you want to be, let me just put it this way, if you want to be, even if, let's say you don't even know anything about you, if you want to be the best version of you that you can be, see, these are good things to do. Because if we all did these things, our families would be better, right? That'd be so much better. I tell my boys all the time, I go, it's so hard to get through to our kids, even because it's hard to get through to us. The truth is always better, isn't it? Even though you may face something right then, it's always better. But yet we still avoid that sometimes. Okay, so the next thing would be, the second point would be to resist social deception. Social deception. Wow. Right? This is huge. And so you have to learn how to evaluate the information that's coming at you critically. You have to. Now, the trouble, this is difficult, because here's why. There are people in our lives that we've placed in a position of authority in our life. We've chose that. Some people, it's the pastor. Well, if he said that, he's in a position of authority, and so I'm going to believe everything he says. Listen, don't believe it because I say it. Don't believe it because I say it. Don't go tell somebody, I believe this. Why? Because my pastor said it. Well, I may have done a lot of work. I may have a lot of life experience, a lot of stuff that led me to that place. I still might be wrong. led me to that place. I have a lot of background or whatever if I say something like that. And you may not have those same things. You just adopt somebody else's belief. You just adopt it. And so we do that sometimes with social dilemma. Maybe you put a certain news outlet as your top information gathering place, and that's it. And so you say, well, that's what they said, and so I believe that. So we need to learn how to evaluate that information critically, scrutinize the sources. Are there reasons that they might have to be towing this line, saying this, giving this information, right? Are there reasons behind that? Oftentimes we say, my friends and I say, trying to find the truth, follow the money. Follow the money. So evaluate information critically. And then what we can do is, like we can do on our part, is to promote truth in our own public discourse. Like promote truth. To promote truth means to be this, means to be vulnerable. Who likes that word? Who loves vulnerability? Oh. But vulnerability is one of the best. I've told so many people in here, probably the second watch TED Talk of all time. I showed it in church here when there were 100 views. Brene Brown's TED Talk on the power of vulnerability. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. If you watch it, you should watch it again. It is that good. But none of us want to be that. So we have to encourage honesty. And then we have to do this. You have to respect dialogue. Respect it. Doesn't matter if you are the exact polar opposite. You respect the dialogue and you listen. And then, of course, then we have to be strong enough to be able to stand up against falsehood, right? So number one, on your own part, refrain from spreading misinformation, right? Or actively correct it if you have. It was funny, so yesterday we were playing golf and Pete was on the tee box and hit the ball. It never left the tee box, and the guy said, you can, sorry Pete, it's part of the story. I don't know what to tell you. Guy said, you can re-tee it. You can re-tee it. And so, and then later on, after it was all over, I was telling that story, and then a couple people said, that's true. My friend Rick Labusky said, that's true. I said, where'd you hear that? He goes, I don't know. Couldn't remember. He read it somewhere. He couldn't remember. It's fair enough. And so I pulled up on the internet and I read to him, that's not true. He goes, oh, okay. And then last night I was looking again and it is true. I'm telling you, it is true. It's a change. It's a change. If it doesn't leave the tee box, you can re-tee it. And so Rick was right? So I want to... First time this century, Joanne said. It's unbelievable. Rick was right? So stand against falsehoods. Tell the truth where you can, right? Now, I was like, I was so happy to tell Rick he was wrong. Not true. I see it right here. And then he said something to me. He goes, is that current? And I go, yeah. Of course it's current. What a lie. That wasn't current, Rick. What was current is you can re-tee it. And Pete said, thank God. Thank God I got to pay, right? Save the embarrassment of trying to get a driver off the grass on the tee box, huh, Pete? Yeah. Stand against falsehood. And then 3 would be this: experience emotional liberation. This simply means this: just communicate honestly in your relationship. Just be as honest as you can be. Now, I get it. I get there's times when you don't have to lie, but you don't have to say, does this dress make me look fat? No, your fat makes you look fat. You don't want to say that. That's not the honesty I'm talking about. Right? I don't know how you got out of that trap. I just think that's just a trap that you're just in. Yeah. But learn how to do this. Learn how to express your thoughts and your feelings authentically, right? You don't have to, listen to me, look at me. You don't have to go along to get along. You can be yourself. Like, it's okay. It's okay to think and feel differently. And you speak that truth in love. That's okay. Next thing would be to seek emotional healing, right? We all have these unresolved issues in our life, traumas that may hinder our ability to be truthful. Again, there's a book I tell about all the time. It's one of the best books I ever read. It really helped me. Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. In other words, in order to be spiritually healthy, you need to be emotionally healthy. In order to be emotionally healthy, you need to be spiritually healthy. They're two cogs that kind of go together. So seek emotional healing. I have some issues with some friends of mine that I'm not saying I'm not at fault. I'm probably at fault in different areas, but they need some emotional healing. There's some issues because, when you see somebody behaving, this is what's really interesting to me. And you've probably experienced this before, but you have a conflict with somebody. And their behavior isn't equal to the conflict. Their behavior is like way above the conflict. Now, there's a conflict, and there should be there are reactions to conflict, but usually they kind of stay equal. You know what I mean? But what's like way above? Number one, there's always other factors going on, right? There's always other things that are at play. But when it's off like that, it's a difficult place to be. And so what happens is this is what I find. I find that behavior to be, if you look at a behavior and you go, well, that's the response. Let's say it's an adult in their 50s, it doesn't matter. And the behavior is a behavior that you recognize and you just go, that seems to me like that's how a teenager might handle that situation. You follow me? And so, and if that's you, right, if that happens to you, one of the things, and this is difficult to do, and Jamie will attest to it, but oftentimes there was an issue that when you were young, when you were that age, that something came up that you faced, and your response emotionally, you never got past it emotionally. So when a similar situation comes at you that brings about that emotion, you can only go to the level of emotion that you've grown to. And so I say, why are you acting like a child? I've never grown past that in the situation emotionally. And so emotional healing is very, and we all need it, friends. We all need emotional healing, just all in different areas of our life. And I know we all want to become, mature. And the Bible talks about that, about growing to maturity. So seek emotional healing. Because if not, those things are going to hinder your growth in your life, and are going to hinder relationships in your life, whether they're personal, business, or whatever. It will hinder it. Last thing would be this. I already talked about it, but I just want to say it again, is embrace vulnerability. Allow yourself to be open. Allow yourself to be genuine. Let me just finish with this story. So imagine this scene. You're in a classroom, professor, and professor says, okay, we're going to go pretty fast today. If you get lost at any time, just stop me and I'll clarify. And he's going on, and you're sitting there, and you're in a book, and you're writing notes and everything. You're thinking, oh my God, I was lost in the first 5 minutes. What am I going to do? You know what I mean? And everybody else is frantic. Go, oh, these people are so smart. I'm not going to raise my hand. You know what I mean? I look like a dummy, and right? And then finally, someone over the room, somebody raised their hand and go, I'm lost. And you hear a collective sigh of relief. Oh God, thank God someone said it. Right? None of us want to be that person. None of us want to be the person that admits that, I don't get it. I'm lost. Help me. Why do we do that? That's our egos, right? Be as authentic as you can be. Right, Pete? Be you. Be you. Good, bad, or indifferent, just be you. Knowing that if it's bad, I want to get better. Right? If it's good, so be it. but just be you. Let's stand. God, I pray for all my friends here today, those watching online. God, in this, complicated world and information and everything that we're living, God, help us to live authentic lives. Help us to be true to ourselves, be true to others, the best of our ability. But most importantly, God, help us from this point on to commit to growth. Even if it's just incremental, just little by little by little. We commit ourselves to growing in this area of being the best version of ourselves that we can be, to be as authentic as we can be, to be as truthful as we can be in every situation. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Thanks, friends. Have a great day.